Hi everybody, welcome to my channel Frugalisama. My name's Sam and this is where I talk about all things sewing, and today is day 74 of 100 days of sewing and another Frugal Friday. And today I'm just going to give you a quick review of the Great British Sewing Bee that was aired this week, and find you some free patterns that maybe match up with some of the ones that the contestants made. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far, and if you haven't already subscribed, if sewing on a budget's your sort of thing, got lots of videos with hints and tips. I usually record on a Friday with the Frugal Fridays, and then generally I record on a Sunday and during the week with some hints and tips and techniques and that sort of thing. So if that's the sort of thing that you like, please consider subscribing, and if you hit the notification bell, that will tell you when I've got new videos out, which is particularly useful for the Frugal Fridays videos, because some of the discounts and things like that that I talk about don't last very long. And just to say thank you to everyone who's bought me a coffee so far as well. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you so much. So this week's Great British Sewing Bee was International Week. So I should be saying bonjour, or bonjour as we say in Yorkshire. And for the first round, for the pattern challenge, the contestants were making Breton tops, which is why I'm wearing my Mandy Boat Tee here. And Mandy the mannequin here is wearing another Breton top as well. So on the surface, very simple pattern you would think. I was reminded of the Tilly and the Buttons Cocoa top when I first saw it, but the challenge that the contestants had was a little bit more complex in that they were to put a button placket at the shoulder seam here, and for some reason there was a woven stay tape going into the neckline here, probably to keep it stable, but not something that I've ever actually done. So yeah, I think some of the contestants really struggled with getting the neckline straight and then inserting this button placket in quite the way that they wanted it inserting. They were very specific on how the judges wanted it inserting, and they were also obviously looking for stripe matching. So I think quite a few of the contestants struggled with this one. They had 3 hours in which to do it, and if you were just doing a basic Breton top like these two, then yes, you could do it. My friend did actually text me and say, you could do this easily in 3 hours. Well, yeah, I could do a Mandy Boat Tee in 3 hours, but not a button placket, no chance. And I think there was a split hem on that one as well. So yes, I was very much reminded of the Tilly and the Buttons Cocoa top. But Love Notions have got the Terra tunic, which has actually got this button placket. Although it is a tunic, you would have to make it a little bit more fitted to give you that look. And Love Notions have actually got a bit of a sale going on at the moment, which I'll touch on later in the discounts part of the video. So I think what struck me most was how the contestants were struggling to line up the stripes on the Breton tops. That is fairly basic and just basting. So all you need to do is, instead of just going straight in with your sewing machine, I can't understand why not one of them actually did any basting. So some of them did better than others. To be honest, it's something that doesn't bother me that much, but yeah, basting. And you can actually get special pins as well that have got 2 prongs on them, and you put them either side of the actual stripe, and that helps with the stripe matching as well. So for free patterns, I've already mentioned the Mandy Boat Tee and made this lots of times. I've got a video on how to help you make it. I don't see the point of putting a placket on something when it's not functional, so just to get the look I would just put the 3 buttons there. This one is from this Great British Sewing Bee from Stitch to Style book, and it's this one here. And it's got quite a drop shoulder on this one, but what's significant about this one is they actually use a facing on the neckline on this one. Not quite like the one that they had on the bee, but they do interface the neckline, so it does give that stability in the neckline. And there is a split hem, and I believe the ones that they had on the bee had a split hem as well. So why am I telling you about this one when it's in the book? Well, if you've got the book, then you're laughing, and if you haven't got the book, this pattern is actually free to download from the publisher's website. However, the instructions aren't, unfortunately, so you're on your own. It's quite straightforward to work out, it's not difficult. But the beauty of this pattern is that not only is it the long sleeve top, you can make it into a t-shirt, and then you can make it into a dress as well. You can just extend it and make it into a dress. So good value pattern is that one. And that's from the Stitch to Style book. The one on the bee was quite fitted. And these are a little bit looser, particularly the Mandy Boat Tee. The way the Mandy Boat Tee is drafted, it is a bit looser fitted. I tend not to go with that big baggy look and bring it in a bit. I think I talked about that in the tutorial video that I did for it. So just one more Breton top that I did find online, and that is a patternless one, and that's the Britta Breton top by Amanda Walker. And that's available from Sew Mag. It's patternless in that you're taking measurements, so I guess it's free size because you're taking your own measurements. And they've got this interesting gusset detail at the shoulder there, which I think would actually quite nicely replicate the one that they did on the show. And then you would just put some buttons on there if that's the look that you want it to go for. So I will leave a link to all the patterns that I talk about below. I always leave all the links. You don't need a pen and paper. I'll leave all the links down below. I think that one would probably give you the look that the contestants had. And there are instructions with that as well. Sometimes with the sewing magazines, they don't have the instructions, but this one does have the instructions. So yeah, I think you'd probably get the look of a Breton top from most blue and white stripe fabrics. Breton tops traditionally are blue and white, but I mean, you saw the contestants use just any coloured stripes. There was a lovely pink and white one, and I did notice that quite a few of them had used the Tillian the buttons fabric as well, and then tied in the colour of the buttons with the stripes on the shoulder there. So yeah, quite a few of them struggled with getting the buttons on the shoulder and just getting this neckline neat, which I think I'd struggle with as well, getting that a woven neckline. I think fabric choice was key in this one. If they'd have read the instructions, they would have gone for something quite stable. But if you go for something quite lightweight, like this is a lot lighter weight than this one, then you're going to really struggle getting that neckline to sit straight. Which is why the Mandy Boat Tee is a great one for beginners, because you're not actually adding a neckband or a neck facing or anything like that. You just turn it under. So it's a great starting project, is the Mandy Boat Tee. I'm a big advocate and I've talked a lot about it, so I'll shut up now. So on to the transformation round, where they have 90 minutes. That was to transform a sarong into, I think they could make any garment with the sarong. So it could have been children's, men's, women's, whatever they wanted. So yeah, you've got a lot of fabric in a sarong and you're at liberty to do anything, and they were given lots of bright colours. I think the only thing you really needed to watch with that one is that quite a few of them were see-through, so you need to sort of watch what you did. Andrew actually made a blouse out of his with a collar. Some of them didn't stray too far away from it actually looking like a sarong. But Adam's was the standout one for me in that he did some draping straight onto the mannequin, and it did look actually really good. I think Adam had a bit of practice on the fact that he worked on cruise ships, and he said that was something that they did. I think they did lessons on different ways to tie sarong, so he's probably had quite a bit of practice on that one. I think he won that one. Sarongs are great because you've usually got maybe really nice, bright, vibrant colours, and sometimes silk if you've got them from maybe India or something like that. I once made a halter neck top out of a sarong. So you've got lots of fabric, and yeah, there's lots of scope with a sarong. So on to the made to measure round, which was interesting this week because it was based on the Mexican-born artist Frida Kahlo, and the contestants were at liberty to make anything they wanted, so long as they took inspiration from her life and work. So some of them used some of the paintings that she'd done, and some of them just used aspects of her life. It was a really interesting one because they could sew just about anything. They weren't told to make it formal, could make a dress, jumpsuit, two-piece, like a skirt and a top or skirt and a trousers. So we saw the whole gamut of things from the contestants on this one. So I think what the judges really were looking for, it's made to measure round for a start off, so fit, and the use of colour. Frida Kahlo was famous for a use of vibrant colours. Esme was looking for things that had got elements of embroidery in. Just a quick word on Esme's necklace, if anybody saw it. Hand sanitisers round her neck. My friend did say she did look like she was going to nip out in the break and do some spray painting in a ginnel, but I don't know what that were about. If anybody wants me to do a crafting tutorial and save you 300 quid, I can do that for you. I was going to put one round my neck, but I forgot. So I was expecting lots of traditional hoopies, and I think that's how it's pronounced, peasant skirts, and maybe headbands and things like that. But they sort of went their own way with the interpretation. So two of the contestants took inspiration from one of her self-portraits. Damien took inspiration from the colours in the self-portrait, and then a monobrow. So he made a sweetheart neckline, boned, fitted dress, which went out into a fishtail at the bottom, using the colours that he'd seen in the painting. I think it did fit actually quite well. I couldn't decide whether it was ever so slightly wonky or it was just the way that the model was stood. But a lot of work in that dress, and I think it was a dress that Therese used last year in the 80s week. That was a McCall 6838. So you can see that in the line drawings that I'm going to show you, that's pretty much the dress that he used. And the judges just didn't like the shade of green that he used at the bottom. He took the shade of green that was sort of the overall colour on the picture. So yeah, he had the orange and the red, which were quite vibrant colours, but it was like a muddy green, and they just didn't like the colour of that, which I think is fair comment, but to all intents and purposes it was a fitted dress. It was finished, it got boning in it, it got a zip in it, and he'd taken the lace across the top to reflect the monobrow. That was his interpretation, and I think it was a reasonable, interesting interpretation. For dresses that are free, that are similar, the Tadea dress from Mood Fabrics, or Mood Society, that was very similar. It's not strapless, but the fishtail effect at the bottom, and that has actually got a really interesting straps at the back. So that was the sort of one that I came up with as a free pattern for that one. No boning in that one because it's got straps, so you don't actually need the boning, which you probably don't want to do. So yeah, the judges said that there was a lot of it that was that was good, but it just didn't say Frida Kahlo to them, so it didn't win that one. So Rebecca took up the same painting and came up with something completely different, as they say in Monty Python. She used the hot pinks out of the painting, and then some of the embroidery. So she did actually use the embroidery. So Esme got a wish, and she had 3 layers in a skirt, which was very, very simple skirt gathered into an elastic waistband, and then did an off-the-shoulder sleeveless job with frills. And it did look really effective. Unfortunately, I think she did something wrong with when she was constructing the skirt. I think she got it the wrong way around, left herself short of time, and then when she came to doing the zip on the top, it just wasn't finished off very well. But overall, I thought that looked really quite effective. The hot pink was lovely. I think the judges said the embroidery was lost by using the hot pink behind, which I think was fair comment, but you don't know that until you try it out, I suppose. But yeah, it was interesting that she'd used the same painting for inspiration but came up with completely different outfit and completely different colours as well. The skirt was very, very simple, and both her and Adina were doing gathering into skirts, and I did think to myself they should have used my tutorial using elastic, because it took them ages to do all that gathering, especially on netting. I mean, there's easier ways, girls. So I've not got a pattern to match that one, unfortunately, but the skirt would be very easy to replicate. I mean, it's just panels gathered into elastic. It wasn't a difficult one. So Adina also used the gathering technique, and I think she had 3 layers. She looked at Frida Kahlo's sort of dress style and saw the lehenga from her own country, so sort of blended the two together. And again, she used lots of embroidery. 3 layers in her skirt, full length this one, it went down to the floor, and lots and lots of gathering as well. She actually called it a dress, but it was a skirt and top, I noticed. She did self-draft this, so I'm not going to be able to find a pattern that exactly replicates this. It looked good, but it just wasn't finished, unfortunately. It could have had a really nice impact, but it just wasn't finished. So the fabric store have got a very long full skirt that's got the split up the front. That's called the Sophia. And if you did that in a lace over the top of a full skirt, that would give you the same effect, and just a very plain, simple top. Serena didn't seem to take inspiration from anything at all, apart from the fact that Carlo was a known feminist, and decided to go with trousers because feminists wear trousers apparently. Now, the top was a very, very simple top. It reminded me a little bit of the Tilly and the Button Stevie top, except that it had a pleat at the front. It was tied at the back, no difficult fastenings, and then she had it colour blocked, so it was yellow at the top third and then plain white at the bottom. And she did actually say that she was getting the top done because that was quite simple, and the fitting came in the trousers. The trousers were really bright colours in a palazzo style, and they did have a bit of yellow in it, but it was a different yellow to what was in the top, and I don't really think that they're too tight together, and that's what the judges picked up on really. It didn't really tie together as either something that said Frida Kahlo or as an outfit in itself. But the trousers were really well fitted, and they looked really nice. Back to the fabric store again for the palazzo trousers. They've got the Louise trousers, which I think would be perfect to get that if you got the right fabric for it. We've got some fantastic fabric in the shop actually, which I'll show you a picture of. Not exactly the same, but very, very similar. Also, Mood have got a pair of trousers, very wide leg trousers. I think they're called the Aster trousers. Pretty sure Rach Stitched Up has made these and said that they came out absolutely massive and she had to take them in at the waist. So if you're thinking of doing those ones, I would watch her video first. Also, Sew Magazine have got some palazzo pants as well. So lots of options for free palazzo pants. The boxy top was very similar to, like I said, the Stevie, but Laura at So Different has got quite a few tops in that vein where they're just grown on sleeves. For the top that Serena made, I thought maybe the boxy top that FibreMood magazine has, which is this one here. So you've got the colour block in here, you've got the grown on sleeves. There is actually this band at the bottom which you would just eliminate, and it is buttoned at the back, and again you would just sew that up and put yourself a tie detail at the back. So I thought that was actually a good match. The only thing is that it doesn't have the pleats here that she had going down. You would just add extra into the neckline here, but just to get the look, I thought that was a good alternative. So yeah, Esme said that it was really good sewing, but that she didn't feel that the top was connected to the trousers in some way, and I would be inclined to agree with that one. But the fabric on the trousers was absolutely lovely and really did sort of shout holidays to me. So Andrew had a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I don't really know what he was going for. I think he might have started with the choice of fabric in his skirt, because I think that was quite a good choice. That is actually available at Minerva. It's a sort of a viscose with bright florals on, and then it's got almost like an animal print in the background. And he made like just a very bog standard pleated skirt, which you can find anywhere. FibreMood magazine have got one. They call it the pocket skirt, but you take the pockets off, you've got that skirt, I would say. And then he did actually go for the traditional looking huppy and decided to line it for some unknown reason. It looked like the lining wasn't the right size for the outer, and as Patrick pointed out, it didn't need lining. So effectively he lined his skirt, he lined his top, so he was making two skirts and two tops, and then he was planning on machine embroidering all the front of the top to give it the huppy look. So he just gave himself too much work to do. So you saw him at the end really, really rushing and then ripping some ribbon off, which was quite dramatic. And all his neckline was unfinished, and then you could see all the lining peeping out underneath. It wasn't his finest hour, and like I said last week, it was a kiss of death saying he was a good sewer. So I did feel sorry for him really. He was really rushed at the end, and yeah, I think he just gave himself too much to do, a bit like Loratu last week. You know, the lining seemed unnecessary, too much work, and it just didn't go together. Where the top sat on the skirt, it just looked frumpy. But I have found a huppy for you. So if you're fancying dressing a la Carlo, then Alison Cobb have designed her huppy from the V&A Museum. So it's essentially, as he said, it's just a rectangle with either a square or a circle cut out. So I'll leave a link to that one below for you. Adam took inspiration from the embroidered fabric that he had. So it had like vibrant yellows and blues on a black background. And then he decided to go with a white drill play suit that he said that he'd hacked from other patterns. It did look really, really nice from the front actually. It was very fitted, pockets in it, puff sleeves, and then he used the embroidery sort of on the yoke piece at the top here, bits of it around the cuffs of the puff sleeve, and on the waistline, and on the where the pockets go into the shorts. So unfortunately at the back it didn't fit very well. He used covered buttons down the back and it just didn't fit into the back very well. And Esme did pull him up for the hungry bum. It was just a bit too tight around the backside, which was a real shame because it was a really nice outfit. I wouldn't want to wear it because how do you go to the toilet in that? I don't know. Faffing about with buttons at the back, I don't know. So Fabric Store have got quite a few jumpsuit patterns, and Mood have got quite a few jumpsuit patterns, and making them into the romper or the play suit is just quite an easy thing to do. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything with buttons down the back, but I think there's a reason for that. I couldn't find a pattern that matched that exactly, but just to get a look of it, using either a white linen or a white drill, and then using the embroidery, you've got a few choices there. I think Kate at the forward line suggested that he may have used one from Selkie Patterns for that one. So Fari took on board Esme's rule in life, and that's if in doubt, stick a big bow on it. She just went for a very plain and simple shift dress, which was fairly A-line. It got a banded neckline, or ever so slightly turtleneck neckline. Couldn't see how she fastened it at the back actually. And then she took inspiration from the fact that Carlo had a broken back. She depicts that in her artwork called Broken Column, so that's where she was taking her inspiration. So she used like an abstract brocade which had lots of different colours in it, sort of blues and greens and golds, quite muted colours actually, and did a strip down the front. So very much like this dress here that I did. Very simple to do that. I just cut a strip and then just frayed it. I'm pretty sure I used this New Look pattern for that. Probably that there. And did the additional embellishments of the frayed bits. This pattern's a really good starter in that it's got the puff sleeves that she used, it's got the high neckline. It's not quite as A-line as she went. She did, but it's quite easy to make it more A-line. And then stick a big bow on the back if you want to look like an angel. Not something that I would go for. That's not a free pattern. That is a pattern that I got free in a magazine, with Sew magazine actually, many years ago, and that's a K6145. But any shift dress you could get that look and just make those additions to it quite easily. The only thing that she seemed to sort of do was draft her own sleeves, and as you can see on here you've got the puff sleeve there. I think the puff sleeves were quite dramatic, and it did have the impact and drama. What I would say is that this was a made to measure round, and she went for a very loose fitting dress. I mean, it would have had to have fitted on the shoulders, else I would have picked up on that. Compared to Damien's, where it was all boned and very fitted, this was just a very simple A-line dress with the impact and drama of the bows. Raf took his colour palette from a picture that he'd seen of an outfit of Frida Kahlo's. The V&A Museum did an exhibition of her life and work and her clothing a couple of years back now, and there is a picture, an image of a blue top with a red skirt. It was a red peasant skirt. He took the inspiration for the colours from that and just flew with it really. So Raf's had lots of detail in it. His top was inspired by the Huppé in that it had the yellow bib, and then he took elements of embroidery and placed that quite subtly around the top. Did also have an open back like this one here. This is another one that I got free from a magazine, New Look K6376. Raf actually curved off his and it was much boxier, much shorter, much boxier. But yeah, same idea. Open back, crossover, curved, and then he had a puffed pleated sleeve there. So very effective. The colours that he used were lovely, and then he did corduroy trousers. So the trouser pattern that he used was it had a crossover pleat at the top, similar to these Esther ones from Victory Patterns, but they just had sort of cut off at the knee, and then he echoed the pleat in the sleeve. So very, very clever design. He's got a real eye for colour and a real eye for design as Raf. The sleeves on the top reminded me of the iris top from Forget Me Not patterns. That was very similar to that. I'm fairly sure the Forget Me Not patterns is for a knit and his was woven. So Sew Magazine have got the Maggie top, which has got a puff sleeve. I think you might be able to do something with that. And then for the trousers, there is a German website. Now, I've never used this one before, but it's called Initiative Handarbeit. And they've got some wide jeans which have got that pleat at the top. It could work. I'm not sure how this website works because I think you've got to download an app. You can see the instructions. They are free patterns. But you've got to download an app and then use a QR code. So I've no idea how this website works. I've not used it before, but that was the best that I could do with free patterns with that one. But yeah, the judges said that it felt very strongly of Frida Kahlo. The sewing was good. The fit looked good to me. I don't know why that didn't win. Catherine had a very interesting take on it in that she discovered that Kahlo was a communist and had an affair with Trotsky. She used a very plain shift dress with 2 layers, using one layer with Russian dolls to indicate the Russian part of it, and then used lace going over the top of it. So Kate at the Fold Line every week does a review finding the actual patterns that they've used, and I think Catherine actually showed her pattern. That was a new look 6540. I think any sort of shift dress, I mean, you can go back to that one. It did have the sort of sleeves like this at the bottom, and this is using a lace. But yeah, she actually did French seams throughout the lace, but actually made a mess of one of the French seams and then tried to cover it up. I think she'd have been better off leaving it alone actually. In terms of free patterns, I think you could do worse. If you're just wanting a general overall look of Frida Kahlo, the V&A Museum with the hoopie, and then Mood have got the Daylily skirt, which is essentially a tiered skirt, quite fitted at the top but then tiered. That's the sort of look that you're going for. Quite simple to draft yourself for these tiered skirts. They're just rectangles gathered into each other, so quite simple to draft yourself, but just adding embellishments. So the Alice & Co one at V&A Museum. V&A Museum have also got a kimono dress that have got interesting sleeves. I'll link that below as well. So I thought I might have a go at replicating Raf's top using a combination of the Sew Magazine top with the puff sleeves and the Alice & Co Museum hoopie, and trying to do a cross back, seeing if I can do a bit of a sew along for that. So if anybody be interested in doing that, I'm happy to do that. I am working on the gathered sundress to do a sew along for that one, and I will bring that out next week. It just takes quite a lot of editing to put together. And I did do last week, I did make a utility jacket inspired by the sewing bee as well. So I will feature those in my May makes and do a couple of sew-alongs, I think. If that's of interest to anybody, just let me know below. So that's the bee for this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Just a quick overview really, and just some ideas of how you could get the look with free patterns or drafting it yourself. So on to discounts now. So the big one is this week is the Love Notions, and they have got 40% off site-wide until the 10th of May. And they're also offering a sewing machine up for grabs as well. So I will leave a link below to what to do with that, but it's a case of following people on Instagram and leaving comments on people's blog posts and things like that. The sewing machine is only available to US residents. Do have a prize for international people as well. Helen's Closet has got 20% off the Ashton top throughout the month of May. And throughout the month of May, Therata Davis is offering 25% off a different pattern each week. So what I would suggest you do with that one is go and follow her on Instagram, because she announces what it is on Instagram and it's only available on a Wednesday. So this week it was the overlap jacket. She's got some really nice patterns as Therata Davis, so if you go follow her then you won't miss it. And FibreMood are offering a discount up until the 16th of May. Apparently it's Mother's Day on 16th of May in the US. So there's 3 options for a year's subscription for this one. So you pay for 4 issues and you get 5. And it's available in 5 languages, is this. So you can get the paper edition, and that is £45 instead of £50. You can get the paper and digital edition, which is £72 instead of £80. And you get 5 PDF patterns, a choice of 5 PDF patterns for that one. or you get the digital only, which is also £45 instead of 50, and you get the choice of 5 PDF patterns for that as well. So I thought that was a good one. And this offer came available whilst I was editing from FibreMood, and that is to choose a PDF pattern of your choice, either today, Saturday, or tomorrow, Sunday. And then Tilly and the Buttons have got 20% off the Roma top and the Jessa shorts, and that's until Sunday. So a nice little summer outfit there for you. So I've got a little freebie here for you as well. So if you've ever been curious about drafting your own, I keep talking about it's how easy it is to draft your own things. In-House Patterns is a really, really good resource, and she's offering a drafting course for a skirt block throughout the month of May. So you just need to sign up for it during the month of May, and it's a series of 5 email lessons that you'll be sent, and it'll just guide you through the process. So I think it's just a good way of getting comfortable with drafting your own patterns. You should get a skirt that fits at the end of it, which, because it's a block, you will be able to do any number of different sort of skirt variations from that. And you just get to learn a few basic drafting techniques and have a made-to-measure skirt at the end of it. So I'll leave a link to that one below for you. And then a big giveaway that's going off on Instagram is by Sew HQ. They're celebrating their crafts challenge. I think they're doing a quilt along, and they've got a Genome 5270QDC, and that is worth £749. This one is only open to UK residents, but it's an Instagram challenge, and it's just a question of following them and liking the post and then tagging a friend, and that's open until the 13th of May. So, but I would suggest that you follow those on Instagram anyway, because I've had lots of little giveaways throughout the week, which it's usually too late for me to actually say anything on the Friday videos because they've been and gone by the time I get there. So that's 2 sewing machines this week, one for UK residents and one for US residents. Do apologise to the rest of the world, it's don't shoot the messenger. Then a couple of others is to win a year's worth of a subscription to Seamwork magazine, and that is if you listen to their podcast and rate them on wherever you listen to them, and then you need to complete a form, and I'll leave a link to that below as well. So it's well worth having as a year's subscription to Seamwork. They've got lots of great patterns. I think that's it this week. The challenges are still going on from last week that I talked about. All the May challenges, they're still going on. Sew Together for Summer, that's going on until mid-June. And then there's the Great British Sewing Bee style one. So if you're doing anything that's inspired by the Sewing Bee, either my free patterns or anything that's inspired by the bee, if you just tag, I'll put the link below, and you just tag Sew and the city that's running that and the week that you're entering. So I've entered my Paolo, I've entered my utility jacket for that one. So that's going throughout the time that the Sewing Bee is running. So that's it from me this week. I hope that you found that of interest and there's some free patterns there for you. Let me know below if you want me to do a bit of a sew along to sort of get a look of what Raf's was. I'm not going to replicate it exactly. I've got bits of embellishments here that I could incorporate. I've got this bit of lace here, and this and that go together really quite nice. I wouldn't put all this all on one top, but yeah, I've got some plain white fabric, or I've got this embroidered fabric as well, quite see-through, so it would have to be something that's lined, but yeah, I could have quite a bit of fun doing that. And if you don't want me to do a sew along, I'll probably just do something myself. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I shall speak to you later. Bye.